Hey everybody, it's PartyElite with another online battle today. I take the Skaven to the field, once more battling Clan Angrund, led this time by Kharn Flakes. We begin, as always, with talk of composition and deployment, and what I love most about this battle, I think, is the fact that neither side has a regular deployment. You can see there are no straight lines here at all. We're both trying something clever, sneaky, whatever you want to call it. So let's start with my Skaven. We've got Queek Headtaker in charge, and alongside him we do have the Plague Priest atop the Plague Furnace, trying to bring some magic in here, trying to use Plague. We've got double Pestilent Breath for an experiment, and of course the Chariot of the Plague Furnace itself. Then the air quotes front line consists of these 3 units of Death Runners over here and the 2 units of Death Runners over here. The hope was to actually use the 2 units of Deathglow Bombardiers with their magical and armor-piercing missile damage alongside the Warp Lightning Cannon back here, also with the magical and armor-piercing missile damage from a distance, and bait the enemy down this way because I was expecting them to deploy over here with some units hidden in the trees over there, and then have them just travel down this way, engage them with these Death Runners, and then get some nice rear charges over here. Of course, that didn't work out, and then we also had this Doom Wheel on the far left over here, hoping for that same engagement, just so it could come in from the flanks, but of course, the Dwarfs had something else in mind. So let's take a look at their deployment. A lot of trees covering more or less everything they have on the field here, so let's see if we can't get a quick peek. Unfortunately, the foliage is going to cover everything, but let's take it piecemeal. Up front here, we have this unit of Miners with blasting charges, and right behind them we've got 2 units of Quarrelers with great weapons, so capable in melee if push comes to shove, though they are armor-piercing with their great weapons, which isn't always necessary. I guess they're suspecting some Doom Wheels to come crashing through. Right behind them, we also have Hulkenhuff Stonebeard, the Thane, melee specialist, of course ethereal, so there's a lot of damage resistance there, and my armor piercing is not going to make a difference here. Back here, meanwhile, we have the second contingent, and this consists of 4 units of Dwarf Warriors, 2 up front and 2 right behind them, able to pile in and provide support wherever necessary, and they are protecting the Great Cannon as well as the Goblobber. So again, settling grudges 2 at a time. We've got some goblins to kill as well. All the way back here, we have this unit of Slayers, and these guys, alongside those Dwarf Warriors, are going to protect all of this artillery against anything large that might come crashing through, or if there's any infantry, clan rats, anything like that. And of course, Belegar Ironhammer himself is in charge, tucked away in the back here, staying safe at the start, while up front here we have some more units. We've got these Miners with blasting charges, able to toss their blasting charges if my army was to come piling down this way. We have this unit of Quarrelers with great weapons as well, again with the armor piercing, not entirely necessary unless a Doom Wheel or something comes crashing through. And we have Throny Ironbrow providing that runic magic support. And finally, we have one more unit you can see over here of Miners with blasting charges. So a very spread out deployment, and I think my opponent was hoping, much like myself, to use artillery as bait, to draw me in here no matter where I deployed, and then using this wonderful terrain gift as an opportunity to provide a perfect ambush for these dwarfs. But I wasn't going to fall for that. So let's kick it into full speed and take a look at exactly what's happening. So right from the start, these Quarrelers over here were able to get some shots into my Death Runner, so I popped concealment bombs immediately and pulled them back from where they were initially deployed to get them into a safe distance, and of course to get them hidden. Using concealment bombs will keep them hidden for a while longer. At the same time, I am pushing my Deathglow Bombardiers up front, and this time I'm going to be a little bit wiser compared to last time. I know there's probably some ethereal heroes on the field, so I want to use that magical damage. Meanwhile, over here, the Warp Lightning Cannon that I've turned to open fire at enemy artillery is not doing so well. It has to push forward and get above some of these mounds so it has a clear line of sight, and while it's doing that, the catapult, of course, is free to open fire and do a decent bit of damage. The rest of the army as well, you can see, is creeping forward. I'm getting these Death Runners over here, trying to push them up, make sure there's nothing stalking up from over here, and then creeping over to the side over there. Clearly, I'm against a pretty clever opponent here, so I'm not taking any chances. You can see Queek and the Plague Priest initially being sent off to this side over here, hoping to go after that artillery with full force, but I am being very cautious as well. You'll see the Doom Wheel as it is creeping forward. The rest of these Death Runners push forward, and the Doom Wheel turns around as well, hoping to engage whatever is here. I'm not able to see it just yet, and off to the side over here, I pop concealment bombs once again, hoping to sneak forward and get as close as possible before they get noticed. To the right here, you'll notice the Warp Lightning Cannons are doing absolutely atrociously. One has already been destroyed. In come some more shots from the Goblobber, doing a decent bit of damage, and really the Warp Lightning Cannon was a giant waste in this situation. An unfortunate deployment for myself, and rather clever deployment for my opponent, making sure I could not use my artillery. But back to the Doom Wheel and these Death Runners over here. You'll see those archers were opening fire into the Doom Wheel, and the Doom Wheel is relatively unhindered, doesn't really care, pushes right into these archers, and in come the Death Runners as well. The miners with their blasting charges are able to throw some of those blasting charges off, but not before the Doom Wheel comes around and cuts most of them off, doing a decent bit of damage there. And you'll see back here, using the concealment bombs, these Death Runners are able to creep right into the trees, and they are still hidden. You can see they aren't spotted, able to just sneak by, as up front here, Hulkenhoff Stonebeard dives into combat. I've got these Quarrelers engaged with their great weapons, all tied down by my Death Runners, causing armor-piercing damage, and using Weeping Blade to reduce enemy armor as well. We do, of course, have these miners with blasting charges as well. I did not notice there were miners at first. I thought they were just all a bunch of Quarrelers. Back here, meanwhile, you'll see the Plague Priest and Queek continue to push forward this way, while the Deathglow Bombardiers are now nudging forward, looking for this ethereal enemy hero. So, not going to fall for it like I did last time, not going to make the same mistake, rather, as I did last time, being a lot more cautious, and you'll see finally the Death Runners over here have been spotted, but my enemy is very slow to respond. You can see this other unit has not been seen yet, and I'm just creeping my way over, looking for whatever else is hidden here, whatever else might be tucked away in these trees, and very quickly I spot these Dwarf Warriors, so I just charge right in, hoping to close that gap and do a decent bit of damage, shut them down before they're able to get involved into anything more important. The Plague Priest, meanwhile, you can see giving chase to some of these miners, giving chase to these Quarrelers over here, as well as Queek, turning around now as I'm a little more cautious about what might be hiding in these trees over here. I feel like I've explored the density of the woods over here, and there's not enough to warrant the cost of the entire dwarf army. So there must be something hidden here, there must be something hidden here, and I veer Queek and the Plague Priest away into these trees just to take these guys down piecemeal. And you'll see the Deathglow Bombardiers firing away at Hulkenhoff Stonebeard over here. We've got the Doom Wheel pushing towards this little clump, and I use Plague. The Doom Wheel just pushes by, not really caring about this engagement, as Plague does a tremendous amount of damage. You can see that one unit of Dwarf Warriors is absolutely melting, and even though Dwarfs have a little bit of magic resistance, it's not enough to counter the strength of a spell like Plague in a giant clump. I've got more Death Runners just piling in, while the Doom Wheel back here, you can see, is rushing towards the enemy as well. We toss some of these Dwarf Warriors aside, and these Slayers respond more or less right away, so very quick response from my opponent there. Well done, diving into the Doom Wheel, and as soon as the Doom Wheel gets locked in place, it will start taking a decent bit of hurt. Belegar Ironhammer is up there as well, and he's able to do some work, while Queek over here is providing some support to these Death Runners, diving in, hoping to scare these guys off, while again these Deathglow Bombardiers just firing away into this ethereal Thane, trying to kill him, unkill him, trying to get rid of his spirit. You'll see over here, we finally have the Quarrelers with great weapons and these miners with blasting charges all creeping out of the woods, seeing that I'm not falling for the trap, forced into action, pulling forward and opening fire. Not a bad call at all, trying to target some of these Death Runners who do best when they're engaged in melee. So gunning them down, hoping to take care of these guys as these Dwarf Warriors are all made to rout. And now I'm pouring forward. As you can see, another unit of Death Runners that earlier had just circumvented that engagement off to the left is now diving into the cannon over here and now pushing forward into the Goblobber again, trying to take care of enemy artillery, while the Doom Wheel, as you see, is trapped in position here, locked in place, not able to get free as much as I try. You'll see I'm trying to clear up some space, but fortunately the Doom Wheel is able to fire around as Queek himself gets involved. So he does push in, trying to chase after Belegar Ironhammer here, and a couple of abilities are about to go down. So you'll see in just a moment's time, Queek hits Belegar Ironhammer with trophy heads, hoping to reduce his melee attack and his melee defense, and you'll see his melee defense drops significantly right down to 10, which is next to nothing compared to Queek, who has a melee attack of 63, and I've used Dwarf Gouger, increasing armor-piercing damage by a whole 40%. So I'm looking to take care of Belegar Ironhammer as quickly as possible, and unfortunately you'll see though the Doom Wheel has started to rout. Meanwhile, over here, I've got the Plague Priest on sort of a chariot duty, you could say. He's looking for any targets to strike, pushing into these miners with blasting charges, making sure they're not able to get their blasting charges off. Meanwhile, you can see the Deathglow Bombardiers are again chasing after this ethereal Thane, who is currently under the protection using the runes, Rune of Oath and Steel and the Rune of Negation, but the Runesmith does have to turn around and come down here to try and provide some support, where the Plague Priest is getting a lot of work done. You'll see the miners throwing their blasting charges, trying to provide some support and get rid of the Plague Priest, but not doing enough, while all the way up here, you'll see Belegar Ironhammer is in a terrible situation already at just about half health. He's done barely any work. I've got Death Runners all around him. Trophy Heads has gone down on him, so his armor has been halved. There's Dwarf Gouger active on Queek Headtaker. Belegar is not in an ideal spot, and now the Doom Wheel has decided to return to the fray as well. I just need to pull him down here and knock a few more dwarfs around to end this battle. And all the way off in the distance here, you'll actually notice I have the crew of the Warp Lightning Cannon doing absolutely nothing, but maybe worse than that, at least they tried. Worse than that is this unit of miners with blasting charges who have been sitting there looking pretty for the entirety of this battle, doing absolutely nothing. Back to the situation at hand, in the trees over here, you'll see, seeing the opportunity with these Death Runners having given up, the Thane is now giving chase, and I have to pull my Deathglow Bombardiers away, because if they get engaged in melee, they don't stand a chance against both these miners with blasting charges and the Thane. Over here, meanwhile, you'll see I'm trying something a little cheeky with the Plague Priest, baiting all of these guys into a blob, hoping for a nice giant blob here, and popping Plague. It does a touch of damage to myself because I'm right in the epicenter as it goes off, but it does actually work out. You'll see a little bit of damage being done to some of these miners, to some of these Quarrelers, so I'm not too dissatisfied by that sort of desperate attempt with Plague. It works out for the most part, but ultimately they are able to push away. They don't really blob up as much as I would have hoped. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see Belegar has completely given up. He is on the route, while all the way back to the left, my Death Runners have returned to the fray, and I can pull my Deathglow Bombardiers back once more into safety as these Death Runners charge back in, and that forces Halkenhoff Stonebeard to pull back because he does not want to be within ranged support of the Deathglow Bombardier. So you'll see right away, my Deathglow Bombardiers are going to turn around and start opening fire at him, while over here we have a Pestilent Breath going down again, just trying to take care of some units, scare them off, reduce their leadership, and just push them off the field, while Belegar Ironhammer is on the route as well, trying to make sure he doesn't return, but Queek has to turn around and engage some of these Dwarf Warriors that have returned to the fray. Meanwhile, back in the trees over here, just so we can see, Halkenhoff Stonebeard, as well as the miners with blasting charges, running away from all of that range support and the fear from the Death Runners. Not the mechanic fear, of course, but the fact that they have Weeping Blade and armor-piercing damage. All the way over here, the Doom Wheel, meanwhile, back in action, knocking some dwarfs around. Plague Priest as well, doing a lot of work. Rune of Wrath and Ruin does go down on it, trying to catch the Plague Priest, shut him down once and for all, but unfortunately that's not going to be enough. Belegar Ironhammer is back to the field as well, but he doesn't get involved once more, as Queek is right there, and he will kill him if he gets anywhere close. And unfortunately, my opponent decides that enough is enough, and he does surrender. So, GG to my opponent. Very clever deployment. I love this battle, and I am very pleased once more with the performance of the Death Runners, eliminating the efficiency of enemy artillery, and ultimately using Weeping Blade and armor-piercing damage to make quick work of anything they faced. Bringing the Plague Priest worked out quite well, and giving me another chariot alongside some magic that the dwarfs are only so resistant against. And despite what I said earlier, I feel like there might be some use of the double Pestilent Breath, though I don't like Pestilent Breath as an ability as much as a spell because of the restrictions on the chariot's abilities. Now, this was very clever deployment by my opponent. I cannot stress that enough. Took advantage of terrain, but I was very apprehensive about that concave tract of exposed land, and so I was instead able to counter-ambush using concealment bombs and stalking. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, online battles, total breakdown. These things will all continue, trying to bring you a constant flow of tactical analysis and advice. And of course, we're always looking to the future, especially with that new Rome 2 DLC that's been announced. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to meeting you on the battlefield.